Thanks. Call to order the school committee meeting for Tuesday, March 11th. If you'd please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag has been moved up front today. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. There's nothing like a room full of teachers to get a good rousing pledge. It's usually very, very quiet in here. So thank you. On our agenda tonight, like as I mentioned, I apologize for the late start. We had an executive session, a rare one that happened before this meeting, ran a little bit over, as they tend to, and we are starting tonight with a report from our student high school representative, Leslie Camillo. I take it your partner is...
He's sick.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Welcome.
Welcome. And
so I'm just going to give some updates about student council and then the spring sports season in the drama department. So student council went to MASC, which is like the national kind of like, well, not national, I mean state level of student council, and they won the silver council, which is awesome. And then I wrote down also that our spring sports season is starting soon, and also that our drama department is putting on their spring musical. And then for our classes, we've got the sophomores are hosting a 3-on-3 basketball tournament for their fundraiser. Our juniors are planning a semi on April 17th. And then our seniors are planning Mr. SHS, and they've booked their buses for prom, and their prom ticket sales are happening in early April.
wow, very, very full. Excellent, thank you. Forgot to mention, welcome everybody on the committee, as I'm seeing you again. Honor kind of a full of agenda tonight. We had a public comment sign-up sheet, but nobody has signed up for this evening. So if you'd like to launch into the rest of the agenda.
Madam Chair, members of the school committee, Superintendent Rizzi, my name's Andrea Pies. I'm president of the Stoughton Teachers Association, and I respectfully request to be heard.
Ms. Let me preface it by saying, and then you can decide. You've emailed me to ask to appear on the agenda. Your email was specifically, and I believe I printed it, the statement that you give is that you wish to be placed on the agenda regarding the 2014, the March 11, 2014, regarding the unsettled teachers contract and steps. And my response to you, which I didn't print, but as has been in the past, is that our ground rules essentially for negotiating and discussing the contract and the steps is the negotiation process between the teams in bargaining sessions in executive session. That is the reason that I deny your request to be on the agenda. I find that, in the past I have allowed you to come and present the petitions from the teachers as a courtesy. We did that during the last round of negotiations when I was chair as well. But beyond that, the subject of negotiations is a topic for the bargaining table. So as I mentioned in this last response to you, if you had a specific need to discuss something that was beyond that I asked you to express it to me so that I could make the decision whether it was appropriate for the agenda. Otherwise, I felt what was happening was bargaining. And quite honestly, when you had approached us before about bargaining with our entire, or appearing before our entire committee in executive session, we felt that that was not fair and that we didn't have the opportunity to address your membership. And when we offered to make it a public negotiation, you declined. So I am a little confused by your desire to speak here on these items. With that said, I'll give you a minute to tell me what it is you think that if it's different than talking about the contract and steps.
Sure, I'll just start. So we are the Stoughton Teachers Association. Since December, we have asked to be placed on the school committee agenda on 4 occasions, and all 4 times we have been denied. When you deny us the right to speak, you silence every educator in the Stoughton Public Schools. We represent the educators who still must live at home with their parents because they can't afford their rent and their student loans. We represent the teachers who struggle to make ends meet, but who willingly spend $500 or more on class supplies for their students. We represent
Stone. We will not be silenced in the voting booths. We are Stone teachers, and we demand to be heard.
Very good.
Thank you.
There. Should have given me a copy of it.
Can we have copies of those?
Thank you.
I would read away.
Anybody else want a
I
copy?
would like a copy,
Yeah.
please.
We could have copies made from that, Odom. Thank you.
Joyce?
We can, thank you. We can have copies made, like I said. Hang on to that, please.
Leaving?
I know.
The best part of me is going to happen.
We'll give a few minutes to clear out so that our next person on the agenda can come in and find a seat. We had a public comment period, and I'm sorry, we've already bent that rule. I'm sorry, no. And again, I
just, as a citizen and a person running, I just want to know
no.
why they've been withheld.
No, I'm sorry. No, there is not a public comment period. There's actually a rule against people who are candidates speaking during a public comment period anyway. And so, no, that's not appropriate. Sorry. But you can ask any of those questions offline. That is absolutely appropriate.
So he's running also? Yeah.
Yes.
There are some chairs over there. Anybody wishing to stay?
Yeah, I guess they stacked them.
Oh, Joe is at it.
We're going to take a couple of minutes before the people can filter in. If there are any other updates that we can offer for...
I can't think of any. I didn't come with any other matters, so I can't think of any.
I can talk about, I went to this workshop by Desi. You guys want to hear about that?
Well, if it's another matter, something you would have brought up?
Yeah,
I'll give it a minute because we have a guest that's waiting to come in, so go ahead if you have a minute to do that. Erdem.
Yeah, well, I'll wait till the end of the meeting.
Oh, the heat's gone
Ms.
now.
Patton.
Pull up a chair.
Thank you. Next, now Dr. Rizzi, if you would care
Yes,
to.
if we will. Yes, we can go on to the matters on the agenda that the school committee has chosen to take up this evening. And our first guests, and thank you very much for waiting. We're sorry you didn't get to be heard sooner. They are the representatives of the Youth Commission and OASIS, and talking about some of the issues related to our partnering together, and we've talked for some time about you coming to talk about this. So, if I could ask you, Leslie, to make some room for them to come up and then come back when they're done.
Thank you.
So they can all be on camera. So we have Karen Hall, the Director of the Youth Commission and the Council on Aging, Stephanie Patton from OASIS, and our Deputy Chief of Police, Lieutenant Devine. Always a pleasure.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having us tonight. In 2007, we started a social norms campaign called We Are United, which we used in the high school which is a social norms campaign that says that basically most kids are not using drugs or alcohol or different things like that. And from 2007, we did a play on the night on the Stoughton School's Black Night. And since that time, we have really been using that as for our whole kind of prevention initiative, kind of that includes like PHC and some of the healthy community living that we've been doing as well. So as this has started to expand, we have we've decided that it's becoming bigger and bigger. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that we, as a community, can make sure that symbol of the night is a protected one, and one that really stands for all the work that we do, both as the Youth Commission and the OASIS, and what the school does and what the school represents as well. So do you want to?
Yeah, I can say a little bit more. So I think some of you probably know that in the fall of 2013, we actually were lucky enough to bring a national expert to talk with a number of people from the community. There were 35 Stoughton leaders who were actually able to attend what we called our Positive Community Norms Institute. And one of the things that Dr. Linkenbach, who led those 3 days with us around the Positive Community Norms piece, really talked about was this piece around what is our identity and what are our values and what do we stand for and how do we really protect that? So, as Karen had talked about, we've been using the sort of Stoughton United, We Are United for a Healthy Stoughton. We've been doing that for a number of years, initially as our social norms brand exclusively, and now it's kind of really petered out into the community. And I think it's been really great. And Dr. Lingenbach talked a lot with us about we all probably should be thinking about how do we make sure that as a community we stay true to that brand so that we can continue to have it stand for something that's really positive. And so I had a conversation with Dr. Rizzi about this very topic. She suggested that we come and have this conversation with all of you. And so what we really want to do is think about the idea of entering into some sort of a formal agreement to protect the brand for all of us, and maybe even set some precedents for how the night maybe can or can't be used in other situations. I don't know how much you all have thought about that, and for us, we would like to eventually maybe come up with some sort of agreement that we could draw up and share with all of you. So we wanted to just put that on the table. We thought it was, we've been thinking about our own sustainability and where our work is headed, and so we felt like it was probably an appropriate moment to start thinking about all of those things. So I brought with us just a couple of things that sort of showcase the ways we've been using the logo. So these are some stickers. These are enough for everybody? I think there's enough, yeah. And these are decals that we actually have been sharing with local community partners, so businesses and organizations that have been part of some of these healthy community initiatives, both Pioneering Healthy Communities and Oasis, to help people in the community to recognize the brand and showcase that people are on board. You probably are familiar with, we actually printed lanyards for the students when the high school was in need of doing this past year with the ID tags, and we also, have been doing T-shirts and all kinds of other things. So that's why we're here, and we didn't know if you all had questions. I don't know if you want to add anything.
I think the only thing that I would add is just explaining to people why it's important. And we're up here using terms like social norms and things like that, and some folks may not know necessarily what that is, but what it comes down to is that most kids in Stoughton High don't abuse any type of substance. Most kids in Stoughton High do the right thing. They show up every day, and those aren't the ones you hear about. When it comes to alcohol and drugs, unfortunately, and it gets reinforced by parents, and in some cases it can be reinforced by staff, they think the problem is bigger than it is. And when that happens, what actually gets created is a false peer pressure where kids feel, well, everyone's doing it, so I might as well. So the whole purpose of this is to try and let them know that if they say no, they're actually part of the majority. And it's been shown to work. It's been shown to work around the country. And that's why it's so important that the work that we've done here, it's not just about making pretty pictures and making lanyards and things like that. It's all great. It's all part of it. But the core message behind it is that most of the kids actually do the right thing, and making sure that that's not only reinforced by the school, but by the parents, by the police, by everyone else in the town, so that when that kid is faced with that choice to say yes or no, they'll say no because they know they're part of the majority.
I appreciate that explanation. And before I open it up actually to the rest of them, I do have two questions for you. One is that you mentioned that you're talking about the symbol of the night. Is that as opposed to the We Are Stoughton United? Is it the whole thing?
I think that we think of it as being combined.
Okay.
So one of the reasons, and one of the examples, and it's kind of a far-reaching example, but we have the new marijuana laws in town. So what if a marijuana dispensary came into Stoughton and wanted to say, "We are united for,"
right,
or different things like that. Yeah. But because we at the moment, the school system and we as a community, as a town, don't really have some of those, say like, no,
yeah,
you can't call yourself United, the Black Knight marijuana dispensary.
Right.
I got you.
And that clears it up, because I was saying as opposed to like the sports athletic department using that as a term, which is well within the confines of what we do. The other thing I guess I want to ask, has there been any misuse?
Not at the moment. So the reason that it kind of came to our attention as we have been thinking about sustainability or different things like that. We do. it is on the, SMAC was able to get a van, the Stoughton Media Access, and that kind of was like, we're so pleased for that to happen. But had we not known, like that could have easily been something else. Like we're pleased that that We Are United is on the van and part of that.
I see.
But I think that's as a town
Sure.
entity, we feel like that's a good use of it. But
Okay.
that was our first brand of it.
I've got 4 people who are eager to ask questions, and I've got them in this order: Mr. Dolinsky, Sauvanet, Dr. Ural, Dr. Brown. So,
I think
Mr.
Dr.
Dolinsky.
Brown was before me.
I have one question. Thank
Well,
you.
I'm starting with Mr. Dolinsky, who I recognize first.
Karen, I appreciate the efforts that you guys are putting through, and just to offer one bit of advice, you have a very unique logo, the We Are United, with the picture of the horse and that. Register it with the state,
That's what I was going to
okay?
say.
Because this way here, it protects you within the state itself as to anybody trying to usurp your logo or your
This may
May I let?
This may eliminate the need for some of the questions that you're thinking about. When we first had this conversation, and the reason that these folks are here is they would like you to do that, to take steps to protect
Okay.
the logo,
All right.
the brand, the association of the Black Knight.
Okay.
And what they noticed is that we're really happy that they've been able to use it, that it brings us together, that it's a use and a common use that we all support entirely. But it was they who realized that until the school committee takes ownership of it,
Okay.
there isn't an opportunity to decide who is and isn't going to enter into that kind of a partnership. So in support of being the first people on board with such a thing, it is going to be contingent upon you to be protective of what it is that is essentially kind of property.
And we're happy to do it we're happy to do it through the town, and we're happy to do it in any way that Jim's like to do it as a town of Stoughton. Jim's like, I'm happy to take the lead on that, or in any way to do any of those pieces of it. But I think because because we are as a town the Black Knights and and different things like that. So we want to make sure that we are doing our due diligence as well.
And Mr. Dolinsky, you're still up, yes?
if you don't mind, Karen, I don't know what your schedule is like, but I would like to stop in. We've done this for another organization I'm involved with, and show you the paperwork that we have on this, and maybe that would help. And I don't know who would have to do the filing, whether it's us that would do the filing, or they would do the filing, or whatever. But we've taken care of it, and we have another organization.
Whenever we will,
We can have that,
whatever happens, we're happy to help.
Ms. Sauvanet.
Welcome, and you do great work, and you're a great organization. One question I have is, should any students want to use the logo would you have any objections?
Well, again, I think that's more of a conversation for you guys. Like how it seems like.
But were
all of
to be
us.
registered, okay.
Seems like for us, seems like. And again, I would think that's an excellent question, and that's where I feel like that it would be the role of the school committee to place expectations
Yep.
or qualifications on using that. Like, is it because they want to run a business and they want to call it
Right. Right. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Dr. Ural, or are you going to?
Actually, yeah. Along the same lines that was discussed, I took a course on a long time ago on intellectual property. So I remember there was several ways of protecting it, either by registering it as a trademark or copyrighting it, and then you control the use by licensing it. I think it may be a good idea to just to consult, maybe 1 hour consult with an intellectual property lawyer. Tell them that what we are trying to do and what would be the best way of doing it.
and we'll however you guys would like us to proceed.
Because this is really a specialty area, and I don't know because part of this, we have the knight on a horse, and that I don't think we have any protection on that, do we?
So the Black Knight, I mean, just as and that might be something that you guys want to think about, and because you can't in theory, trademark the whole black.
Right.
You know, you can't do something like a whole black night. You know, something like, but the whole how we use it and
Right.
as a united and different things like that. Again, not my specialty. I think that why we wanted to bring it to you is to bring it to you guys first. If you want us to take the lead on it, we're happy to do so. If you as a school committee wanted to take a lead on it, to figure out what are the uses of it that you guys want to do, you guys are more than welcome. However, but I feel like as a because we are a town together, I feel like there are partnerships within the town that kind of go along with that. So, so however that works.
And even though our legal staff isn't experts in that type of law, I'm certain that there are other schools in the state that have looked at copywriting their mascots and their logos and their whatever. So it would be interesting to see just kind of what the norm is
Again,
in that regard.
Remembering from my law class long time ago, maybe you want to protect "We are united," the word "united," and also with the word for a healthy student, because you want to protect all possibilities.
So I guess from this point on, I think that we will, if you guys come up with some type of this thing, then we will go from there to kind of figure out what that looks like. But we just want to make sure that there's like that if a dispensary comes to town, it's not the
right.
The
dispensary.
we have the same desire. And what I guess what I can tell you that we can do is pursue it again through our legal counsel as to what they think the preferred route is for that, and continue the conversation. I don't know that we have a resolution.
And through OASIS and different funding, different things like that, we would be able to get some type of rendering as well if that's something that we need, because we do feel like it is something that we are using more and more often, and we want to make sure that we're within the bounds, and that we really want it to be a community-wide effort, that a positive community-wide effort.
Certainly.
As well.
Dr. Brown, do you?
I think they answered all my questions, but I will say that just look on Bowca.com. I heard what you said. I'm going to go along with the Madam Chairperson, but just look just to see research. I think it's Bowca, BOWKER.com, and look for patent and copyright, and just to see, and then we'll follow what she's saying.
And I know you have another comment.
No, I was just going to say, I think I've said basically what I wanted to say, but I'm just saying that we are united with the picture. You're not isolating just Black Knights. You're using the picture, and I think this whole thing that's in the bottom right-hand corner can be protected. But like I said, I'll bring in what I have for you to look at tomorrow, and then we can proceed from there. And because I think it's just strictly with the attorney, either the Attorney General or the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that you have to file with. And let me bring that stuff into you.
Massachusetts.
Right. Well, I have to tell you, when I first saw that phrase, I just thought it was incredibly genius and inventive, and I hadn't seen it used in my 30 years before. So congratulations to whoever came up with that phrase.
Stoughton High graduate.
Oh, that's awesome.
We should go into advertising.
I know. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Dr. Rizzi? Do you think our course of action in terms of
I'm going to suggest that we see if there's somebody in our law firm who feels like they can give us advice, and Mr. Dolinsky certainly has experience to bring to the table, which might save us reinventing a few wheels.
Sure.
And I think that we should be working as a partnership on it and try and set up a meeting outside of this meeting sometime quite soon to kind of take the first steps.
Great, and we really appreciate the time. We know that you guys have a busy agenda, and
we had nothing else better to do tonight.
So we do appreciate the time, and we really do value the partnerships that come through the school. So we wouldn't be able to do it without you guys, and we're very lucky to have the relationship that we have.
We're very fortunate as well. Thank you.
Thank you for all you do. Really, thank you.
Thank you for coming.
All right.
The next item was a request for a waiver of fees for the use of the auditorium, but I don't see the gentleman here.
Oh, he's right there.
Oh. Oh, I thought you might have left with the teachers.
I know. From us.
Okay, so Mr. Fernandez has a request to talk to you about.
Yes, please come forward. Right over here, yep. The microphone is so the audience at home can hear you.
Sure.
Welcome, Mr. Fernandez.
Welcome.
Hello. I'd like to say thank you very much also to the school committee for giving me the time tonight to discuss this little benefit fundraiser that I'm hoping to fulfill and bring to fruition here at the high school. My name is Joe Fernandez. I've been a long-term resident of Stoughton all my life. I've lived in Easton for the last 12 years now, though. But I've always close friends, family, everybody in Stoughton. So I'm pretty well known in the area. I have an alias, Joe Kid, which is my music stage name. So I really appreciate the time on that end of it too, because I have a show myself, a local talk show in Easton called True Original Artists, which I represent and promote local original talent that write their own material. I promote only original acts, which I've had quite a lot of them in the last year, which has been great. And so that being said, excuse me, but I need a water. I can't. Anybody got an extra?
Extra water that's not open?
I got one.
Sorry about
Okay.
that.
Oh, that's the guest
Probably
photo.
not.
They
You got
keep
it.
drinking from that bottle.
Just a little dry, a little warm in here.
Yes, it is.
Well, anyways, I'd like to start first by congratulating the school and the town of Stoughton for getting some money to possibly, recreate the school and possibly maybe even get a new school, I heard.
We're on our way.
I think that's great. I grew up in Stoughton myself. I came to America, I was about 1 year old. And unfortunately, when I was about 8 months old in Portugal, I got polio. So I had polio. My dad died when I was 2 months old in an accident, unfortunately, there. And my mother was a single mom, and I came over here with polio. So she wanted to get better medical attention from me and everything. So I ended up at the Boston Children's Hospital for quite a few years. But yet I maintained a life in school, and I continued up through school and everything. And I had surgery, about 3 surgeries, corrective surgeries, to correct a club foot from the polio. And thank God I'm walking, I'm pretty normal now. So that being said, I know what it feels like to be I have a little disability. And I've been trying to do something to give back sort of to the town, to the school, to the kids that, aren't as lucky as all of us, put it that way. So I've come up with an idea. Excuse me, I do my own show, but a little nervous here today. But I come up with a great idea, I think, and I hope everyone would jump on board of this. I will get to the waiver of fees in a minute, but I'd like to explain a little bit of what this event will be. I have a lot of friends in the music business, and I've cashed in a few favors to do something like this. So I devised a music meets comedy for a night. And my good friend Steve Sweeney, he's a national star, and he's a funny guy, he's a great guy. He packs the houses wherever he goes. And I kind of talked to him about it, and I said, would you be interested? And he kind of gave me a good break on this fee. What he normally charges is outrageous, but he made it more possible for me. And I also have another friend of mine, which also is a former Stoughton resident, Thomas DeAndrade. He lost his leg below the knee when he was 13. He's exactly my age, I'm 56. And he went on also, we both went on to play music at the age of 13 together. We started a band together, and so music has played a major, major role in both of our lives. So him being disabled with no leg, me with the polio, we kind of joined forces a little bit, and we said, maybe if we put things together, do something together, maybe we can show that there's things that maybe we can do to help kids that are in school now, that maybe have a disability, that might need a new computer system to help them learn something quicker, an easier access to a handicapped wheelchair, things in that idea. That's the context of this show. So my idea is to have Steve Sweeney as a feature act on June 21st at the Stoughton High School Auditorium, and I will handle the whole production. I have everything already laid out. I have all my friends ready to go. Sound system, rentals, things like that. I can handle all that beforehand, so there won't be any money needed from the school system or anything to come up. I will put that up. And when we get the ticket money returned, I'll take whatever I put up, and the rest will go to the school. and I'll keep good records. I do this all the time. I do a lot of fundraisers, a lot of benefits throughout the years. I've done many. I'm very familiar with everyone in Stoughton. Like I said, the police force has been great to me through the years. Every show I do, I ask for their assistance to have someone there at every event, you know, just to make sure everything goes smoothly. I also get professional people to handle the doors, the tickets, everything. Everything is done professionally. So I'm looking at my friend's band also, which is a tribute band called Rocksteady, which they are a tribute band for Aerosmith and they do Bad Company, which I chose for them to do the Bad Company tribute that night because the music is a little lighter. I think it would fit more with a family environment, student environment, and I think that would be great to bring an old classic rock band, which they're all coming back out now, which would be a great feature attraction for the town. And I think music and comedy are the two best healers in the world for anything, you know? So I would like to ask the school committee to waive the fees for the rental fees for the school so that I can, you know, go on with this. And anything that's made after the, you know, whatever I have to pay, the sound system rentals, all that. I will have everything, of course, written out. And I will pass this around if you guys want to look. I did do a little bit of a breakdown on certain things that I just want everybody to be aware of, because when you do a fundraiser, I'm sure everyone understands, there's always a cost to something. There's cost to advertising, which I've already contacted my contacts in the Herald and the Enterprise. And they're willing to work with me a little bit on some advertising costs, give me a break since it's a good fundraiser for a good cause. And I just really would like as much as I can get without a cost, if at all possible. It is for the school, and I will take full responsibility to handle all that. I have a small committee, a group of people that I have designated already that will help along the lines of handling the door, stamping, hand straps, everything like that. No one will have anything to worry about at all as far as the night of the event. In 2011, I can pass this. You can pass this down. A little flyer that I just made at home. We'll make a professional one, but that's just give you all the info. The other part to that is I'm forming a little group, a committee, so that I can have a set group of people that will work with me that night, that will be assigned. Two things I would want to happen is the Stoughton High School Jazz Band. I've already talked to Mr. Mange, and they are available on the 21st, and they'd be more than happy to be part of this, he said. So I was going to invite them to do the opening of the night. They could do 2 songs, start out the night, have Steve Sweeney come on, take a brief intermission, maybe do a 50-50 raffle. While the band gets ready to come up, they'll be all set up in the background. There won't be much time in between. Take a 20-minute, 30-minute interval. The second thing I would like to get is maybe the football team or a sports team from the Stoughton High School, if they'd like to provide waters. They can make some money, you know, for their group, maybe, you know, pass the buck sort of thing. The girls, maybe student council would be interested in doing something, whatever, any group that would like to do that to raise a little money for their little thing. They can just bring their own little table, their own little like booth, set up, sell waters, soft drinks. Maybe I wouldn't really advise chips and things like that because it would be a lot of work to clean up in the auditorium. I would like to keep it as simple and as neat as possible so people can come in at 7, sit back and enjoy a great night of comedy and music and go home with a smile on their face at 10 o'clock and wish that we could do this again someday. That's my hope.
Okay, well, I'm sure there's some questions. I'll start with Ms. Sauvanet.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. I certainly have enjoyed talking to you on the phone. This sounds like a really really worthwhile project, and I love the fact that the Stoughton Jazz Band could be part of that and could be showcased. A couple logistic questions I have is what if there's any damage done?
Yes, I can answer that real quick.
Okay, all right.
I actually have done all my homework.
$466 for
That's
my
correct.
routine.
I've already provided it to you guys. I don't know if you've seen it, but I've provided it. I do have a binder that is not yet paid for, but my insurance company already has it here, which I have it right here.
Okay.
It's in the,
Yeah, it's just get.
I think it's listed at the time.
And you can pass that around.
No, then that's okay. That we have the list
want
just
you to
hadn't
know.
made it that far
Yeah,
down.
no
Yeah.
problem.
actually, we have that requirement in our policy,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I'm following every step that I was told to follow. My insurance company is ready to write that out at any time. I'm waiting. Of course, I didn't want to pay for it and then get turned down, so I'm waiting for the approval. Once I get the approval from you guys, then I can go on with this whole thing. I really hope that everyone sees my concept and my idea and sees it as a good one.
And are you planning to have a police presence?
That was my question.
Yes, that's the other thing too. That's why I said earlier, when I do something, when I do a production at all, myself personally, I do every time, I've mentioned it earlier, I contact the Stoughton Police Department and I ask them what I need to do from them. That's
Okay.
another cost that sometimes,
Yeah.
and right now they're going through a little thing, and there's details that are needed for any events like that in Stoughton at this particular time.
Yeah.
So without going into the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyone that wants to know the reasons, I'll be more than happy to discuss it at another time outside of the meeting. But I feel that that would be something that would come later anyway. Once it's approved, I don't see an issue with any part of that.
Great. I just wanted to make sure, and I haven't looked at the list of what you've already made arrangements for, but I think this is an incredibly generous thing to do. And, just so long as all the logistical things, like the insurance, like the police detail, and I'd also like to look at the details there, but I think it's potentially a really wonderful thing.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Dr. Earl?
I think that's a really worthwhile cause. We do something, I belong to Stoughton Lions Club, and we do actually a concert in the same auditorium. I forgot, what's the capacity of our...
I believe it's 900 seats.
900 seats? Wow, okay.
And I believe strongly in my heart that with this show here, I wouldn't be surprised if we filled this auditorium. Steve Sweeney is a big draw, and he's really, he just got off finished a movie with John Travolta now, and so he's really out there now.
So you would be doing this as Mr. Joe Fernandez, or you have a company, as a
actually,
nonprofit company?
No, I have like I told you, I have a show. I promote local artists in the area, local bands, artists like that. What I do is I do a lot of fundraisers when I'm asked for help. People ask me for help. I'll give you an example. In 2011, the No Place for Hate committee group in Stoughton asked me if I'd mind helping them put something together so they could raise a little money. They went through the school here. We did the Idol show. I don't know if anybody remembers that. I'm the one that did that whole production. I set it all up. I sold almost 300 tickets just myself alone. I got all local singers and local acts from this area, Stoughton mainly, and it was fantastic. I had 28 contestants in the show. It went fantastic, and they made a good amount of money, but it was only $5 a person. So it was a very town thing. It was great. I had, a lot of acts. It also had the choir, the elderly citizens, from the group that was here earlier, from the Council on Aging. I'm sorry. They were there. They had like 40 of them, and they all sang. So it was a very nice event also, and I'm basing it on a similar type thing, make it a town event mainly, but it will be open to anyone that wants to come.
But the Stoughton School Committee would be doing business with Mr. Fernandez, not...
Yes, I will handle everything. I will handle everything. And
we'll
besides,
enter into agreement with you, and then in your insurance binder, you will name Stoughton School Committee?
Correct. And I have here actually, the sample binder that you guys requested, and I also, at the same time, I have the application all filled out right here that was given to me from the school. So I am following every step in conjunction with what you requested from me And I'm actually making just one request from the school is to okay this and waive the fee of the rental of the auditorium. That's all I'm asking, really, mainly.
And I got one more question.
Okay.
So you want to do this benefit for the special education department?
Correct.
For like technology items, or?
I want to make it open to their discretion. But I want to be able to, once all is said and done, I want to be able to get a check, and after all the production costs are paid, write a check out to the school. And my hopes and my beliefs will be anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000, according to what I'm planning. I'm charging. I'm looking at a $20 per person admission, which I think is very, very reasonable. And for this kind of show, you have to go to Boston to see this kind of event. You can't see anything like this.
You can sell 4 tickets here.
Oh,
Right.
I know I'm selling more than 4 in here.
Oh, but the selectmen are good for a
Yeah,
couple
but
of-
anyways, but the reason, and adding one more thing to that, is I just feel that, you know, I've been there. I was that kid. And now that I'm older and I look back, there were things that I wish that I could have had to make my lifestyle or my way of getting around easier instead of dragging my leg and this and that. So when I think back of that, that's why I feel that it's a good reason for me to put my time and effort into
That's
it.
very noble of you. We say that you're a knight.
There you go. Not in shining armor, though.
Mr. Delinsky, you have a question?
No, not a question, Madam Chairman. Just a statement. Actually, it's very commendable that you want to do something like
Thank
this.
you very much.
Okay?
My pleasure, believe me.
With a 900-seat auditorium at $20 a pop, you're talking about an $18,000
Right.
gross.
That's
Your
correct.
expenses on the sheet right now add up to just about
$4,500.
$4,000.
I'm looking at about 5. I'm just looking at about 5, and I think I should be able to give you guys a nice check.
All right, because I'm just saying it's based
Because there are-
on the sellout.
So far,
Okay.
so far on that, what you see there, that's why I put those things down so you would realize that it is quite a bit of.
No,
And-
that's why I'm mentioning it.
Thank you. And also the other part too is I will be getting a lot of volunteers.
Right.
You know, so that will save me a lot. And there's other costs that aren't listed only because advertising that I don't know what will be.
Depending on how you do it, sign printers, you'll be
Like
putting
that,
up signs around
exactly.
town or
And also
whatever.
one more thing before I forget that. The tickets will all be going through Ace Tickets. So we'll be going through a ticket corporation, and when they sell them all, they write me a check. I can show the
So they
check
get a
to whoever they
commission?
need to see it. There won't be any questions with anything like that. Ticket money.
So there won't
I
be
do
any-
something I don't do nothing invisibly.
There won't be any admission at the door then.
There will be. What I'm going to do is I'm going to assign 300 tickets to be made, and I will have 300 tickets to sell in the school. So the school can sell to students, any teachers that might want to come to the show, any students that want to bring their families, friends, anything like that. And I also thought that maybe having the high school jazz band, which I agree with you, they're fantastic, and
Yeah.
that's why I would love to
Great
have them. And
idea.
they've already agreed, so I'm happy about that. That there's 21 kids in this band. So their families and friends are going to see them too. And that will bring Stoughton people in. And I want to really base it and really bring it and base it on Stoughton. I really do. But we can't not forfeit 400 seats if Stoughton people don't come.
Right.
So we have the room, we have the auditorium, and I'm not counting 900 seats actually on this. I'm actually counting 800 because I'm going to take 100 tickets for will call and VIP because there's a lot of people that are volunteering that I'm going to give one ticket for so they can have a guest come, like the band members. Despite the lower cost that they gave me, I want to still give them and the crews and the 21 kids, I want to give each one a ticket for maybe the father or the mother, save them $20 at least. And I want to think along those lines too. You know, everyone that put their part and did their part for free, I want to give them something in return too, like something that they can bring a family member to see the show and enjoy it too. So 100 tickets would be given for free and 800 I would count on selling. So hopefully, I have strong belief and confidence that I will get 800 tickets sold for this event. And like you said, yes, it comes out to $16,000. And even if I took 5 out for production costs, even if it was 5, I don't think it will be even more than 5. But if it would be, whatever it would be, it would still be considered a nice big chunk of change. If I could give a check to the school for $10,000, believe me, I would sleep very well for the next year.
Thank you.
So.
And Mr. Dolinsky?
I don't know if anybody else had any comments, but I
just want to say I commend you for what you're trying to do here, and I hope that it does well. And
thank you. With your help, hopefully we can make this happen, and I'm looking forward to doing it.
So, Mr. Dolinsky?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion, if I may, Madam Chairman, is that we approve the waiver of the building usage fee only.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Any discussion on the motion?
I had.
Yeah. May I ask, is that the recommendation of the superintendent?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then because of the fact that you have to accept any donation that's more than $250, there'll be a nice built-in mechanism for you to get a report, because Joe will have to come back to ask you to accept the donation
Yeah,
for
well,
the high school
and that'd be
special
my
ed department.
We look forward to that.
That would be my pleasure, believe me.
Okay. And Dr. Earl?
So since superintendent recommended this, I'm presuming that we don't have a conflict on 21st of June.
Joe's been working with Margie, who ensures that there's never a conflict in the facilities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we have everything on, it's all penciled in, and we're just waiting for your work.
Okay. And the second question is, I missed Mr. Dolinsky's motion. Are we giving him what he wants, or?
Yes.
The motion was to
waive
waive
the usage fee.
the building usage fee only.
As opposed to?
Custodial, which is
Custodial.
So
contractually
custodian
obligated.
is already, that's
Yeah.
right. Okay.
I just want
And
to
I
make sure that
understand
was
that.
clear.
Okay.
Yep.
So I have a motion and a
second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's
Thank
unanimous.
you very much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you,
Appreciate
sir.
that.
Good luck.
Very, very generous.
And I appreciate
I look
your
forward
time,
to
and,
it.
and I will make this as special as possible,
Yes.
believe me.
We're looking forward to
It
it.
means a lot to me, too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
Thank you, you too. Have a nice night.
You too.
Don't forget your water.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want anyone else drinking it. All right, thanks. Take care.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have the second reading of the hiring policy,
Okay.
if I'm not mistaken.
That's on the agenda, Madam Chairman.
I'm not paging back and forth.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask if there's any comments, Mr. Ford, or shall we just start our discussion and have you answer any questions? We'll start our discussion. Is there any?
Well, Madam Chairman, if I may, I've read the thing more than once, and I found that it's very detailed, it's self-explanatory, it details everything that I think we're looking for without getting into a multi-page dissertation defining word after word. But this covers, I think, everything that we're asking the policy to be. There's nothing in here that I can see that's wrong, and that's my opinion.
Well, thank you for your opinion.
You're welcome, Madam Chairman.
Other comments?
I have.
Dr. Earl.
Well, I think it's we discussed this several times. I totally disagree with this policy because it gives the power. I'm sorry, George.
That's
No, it's sorry,
it was
Snyder
not
mark.
sorry.
That's the Snyder mark?
Yeah.
Thank you. So it's giving the power to superintendent that's not granted by the legislator. So I think it's totally wrong. Let's just go by the law. And then last meeting we talked about, no other, I haven't seen this in MASC model policies. So why are we trying to make up a policy that's, giving the power not given by the legislator? And Ms. Sauvigny mentioned that she found a whole bunch of policies on the internet, and she was going to send them to me, but I haven't received them. But she said, search the Google for Massachusetts School Committee hiring policy, which I did, and I couldn't come up with anything. So Mr. Ford says it's urgent, but I don't see the urgency in that. I think I think we are doing the wrong thing. You know, you guys like this superintendent. I have no problem with you liking whoever you like, but you know, think about the longer term. You know, we may have a superintendent that you don't trust. You know, what do you do with that? Why have a policy? You know, trying to bypass what is required by law.
Actually, I would like to let Mr. Ford interject at this point, and then we will go on.
Well, the reason that we have this policy at the table is because in the past we have hired in accordance with state law and followed the guidelines of the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. But what's happened in the past is, despite the fact that we've followed the state law and the recommendations, there's an ongoing debate about the hiring policy that discredits the credibility of the school committee and the school district as a whole every time it comes up. So what we did is we blended the state law and the Department of Education recommendations on hiring into a single document, and then we added a point which is pure clarity, which puts the whole hiring process back in the hands of the school committee to review. So what we've done is addressed all the concerns that have been brought up repeatedly by Dr. Urel, so that we have the state law embedded in the policy, we have the recommendations of the Department of Education embedded in the policy, and we have a piece where the hiring authority, being the superintendent, notifies the school committee. The school committee has the capacity to review the process by which we hire people and we interview people, and the school committee has the capacity to put members, up to 2 members of the school committee, on the committee to fulfill all the different responsibilities of the process. And what we've done is put in a process that reflects the law, recommendations, and is utterly transparent. So this ongoing issue that comes up every time the school committee is asked to appoint a member of our faculty or staff or administration goes away, and we can move on to more important issues.
Well, let me address this. I mean, there is nothing more important than hiring for example, finance business manager for this committee, or I forgot what was the other one. But what Mr. Ford is saying that he's combined the state law and the guidance from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. He's not telling you that the guidance from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education was published in 1995, just after the Massachusetts education reform, and it had a statement in there. That's 1995 is how many years, George? 19 years ago, and it had a clause in there or statement in there. Future legislation may clarify these things. So 19 years has passed. Future legislation didn't clarify those. So why are we giving some undue weight on the on this guidance?
Yeah.
Mr. Ford.
So the laws on hiring predate ed reform. Those laws remain in effect. But what happened with ed reform is ed reform potentially affected how those laws can be interpreted. So in 1995, the Department of Ed went and interpreted those laws for school districts to use in hiring people subject to school committee approval, so that your process reflected the intent of ed reform. Now when that happened, they specifically put in that piece that you're talking about saying future laws will clarify. But there hasn't been any issues related to the law since then, and there hasn't been any issues related to the Department of Ed's interpretation of ed reform and applying that to this law. So there's never been a need to amend that legislation or that advisory. So what you have is a more current advisory interpreting an old law that has never needed to be revised because it gives you sound advice which is still relevant to this process. If there were issues with the law and the law was continually being taken to court or was a subject of arbitration or unfair labor practices or whatever it might be, then the law would have been amended and the Department of Ed would have adjusted their advisory. But because those things haven't happened and the law and the advisory are sound, there's been no need for amendments, and that makes this policy applicable and current.
So you are saying I'm the only one who's making an issue with the law?
Yes.
I think.
So far.
So at least on this committee, that is in fact true.
But the law, I mean, I'm really easy to please. I don't know, why, in such an important thing. I mean, like one example, hiring of the business manager. We advertised it at the Monday of the July 4th holiday. Gave them the deadline for people to send their application in by the end of this July 4th weekend. And then the following Monday, beyond the deadline, the superintendent's neighbor and friend applied, and she got hired. And school committee had no review or input to it. And of course, that's my duty to make an issue about this this hire. So, and that's not against for the law.
Okay, let's continue on with the policy, Ms. Sauvanet.
So the Department of Education, in fact, has very specific guidelines for how we implement the law. It's called the Advisory on School Governance. It's on the Department of Education website. This policy not only follows the law and follows the advisories, but it goes beyond that. So it does even more than what is required and advised. And I thank you very much for putting this together, Mr. Ford. And I also want to point out that the Constitution was developed in 1790, but because it was over 200 years ago, we don't dismiss it. So that's all I have to say.
That's exactly my point.
Dr. Brown, do you have anything you'd like to add? Or?
I move.
Well, no, actually, can I follow through with this conversation? Because I'd like to have my comment as well.
No, go ahead. Yeah, I'll bow to you, Madam Chairman.
First of all, I don't want to go back and revisit everything that you think was wrong with hiring in the past. This is a policy, at least that we were looking for to agree moving forward, which is what the adaptation of new policy is. And those 3 bullet items at the end, I think would satisfy the need for the kind of involvement that you were looking for, that you seem to think was missing, and which is that it is following established written processes for conducting a candidate search, and that the school committee may elect to have a member, but not more than 2, serve on the committee for any position requiring the committee approval. One of our problems when you talk about some of these positions, as you have with nurses in the past, is you're making the presumption that we can have people apply and that their information is all public, when in fact this is really the superintendent is the only person who is when you're applying for that position, subject to complete openness. People have a certain expectation and requirement for privacy when they're looking for a job, especially in their community, to not be exposed at that early stage that their resume is being screened publicly by the school committee, which is what you had asked for in the past. So I like these 3 bullet points. Mr. Ford certainly didn't need to include them. I thought it did a great job at clarifying what it was that we could do to involve the committee more fully in the process to answer your question. So I agree that I think that, this game that hiring has become has really discredited the school committee, when in fact here is a policy that I think is firmly follows the law with the advisory and makes exception so that we can clearly say what the school committee's involvement will be and can be. So
it goes beyond what's required. Yep.
With that said, Mr. Dolinsky, did you have another comment?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I had the opportunity to serve on a couple of these interview committees. And since Dr. Urel has brought up the fact about a business manager, the number of applicants that we had, I believe there was about 6 or 7 applicants that the resumes came to us on.
It was 3.
It's more than 3. The applicants that had come before us and that we had interviewed, one of which didn't even know what town he was applying for a position on, okay, which really almost disqualified us. Most of the people that we had talked to were basically assistants trying to move up in the organization, and we found at least one that was a prime candidate that worked for a much larger system that was an excellent candidate. So, I mean, it was a discussion among a committee of people as to who we wanted to recommend. Out of all the people that had applied, there were at least 2 that were the top choices. And we suggested to the superintendent, that was the committee's recommendation, that these were the top 2 choices, and she did the follow-up interview and presented the candidate to the committee here. I don't see why you're harping on the way we do things, and this seems to be the answer to what you had looked for. It's clear, it's concise, it's what I would like to see. It spells it out the way I think it should be, and Mr. Ford has explained very clearly about what he has done to put this thing together. So at this point, I mean, I have nothing else further to say on this.
Does anybody want to make a motion?
Motion to approve the hiring policy as written.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Further discussion?
For discussion, Ms. Shea, let the record show that I strongly believe that this policy is not needed because it legitimizes and perpetuates the unscrupulous hiring practices. But with that note, I will vote for it with the vote for the motion for the purpose of moving for reconsideration at a later time.
I just want to say that I find that very offensive because the hiring practices are not unscrupulous, and if you feel that way, then don't vote for it.
They are unscrupulous, but we
are at the point of taking a vote. We've had plenty of discussion on the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? How did you vote, Dr. Earle, for the record?
Voted yes with the...
Sorry, I did not hear you, and I cannot record a vote unless I hear it. Thank you. Moving on to next item on the agenda, which is the non-resident... Oh, no, I'm sorry, the evaluation, because I didn't have it in my packet. I moved ahead. Mary has things she's going to hand out for us tonight.
Oh,
Yay. As she's handing those out, I will take a look for mine so I can explain what it is that you're going to be getting. You're going to be getting a packet with 3 items in it. One is a 1-page set of instructions called the Superintendent Endocycle Summative Evaluation Process. It essentially has 4 steps that we're going to ask you to follow. Second item is going to be the evaluation sheet itself. And then the third item is an annual 5-step, the several sheet, annual 5-step cycle of continuous improvement, which essentially will explain the process of the evaluations moving forward. So for tonight's purposes, you are going to be looking at the instruction sheet. Thank you. I can't speak while things are being passed past me. Sorry. And likewise attached are a report from the superintendent summarizing the goals, as well as a small packet of evidence supporting. So once you get past that, you will run into the evaluation process itself. Yes, I'm just checking to see that it's all in the same order that I told you as you get near the back. And let me just run through that evaluation process sheet for you very quickly without reading it verbatim. Essentially, there are 4 steps. Wow. It is a very simple form. It is an abbreviated form, as you will see.
Which page are we looking at?
This one, yeah.
Can you show Dr. Earle so it is, so he knows what we're all looking at?
Yeah. They don't look the same.
It is
this one here.
Near the end of the packet.
After the big thing, come up to this thing.
Okay.
This one? Okay.
So each committee member will make an individual determination on the progress of the superintendent for each of the goals detailed in the plan. The progress towards each goal will be described as below. It did not meet, some progress, significant progress, met, or exceeded. The individual members will rate the overall performance. The categories for that, or the ratings for that, there are 4, as unsatisfactory, needs improvement, proficient, or exemplary. Ratings of exemplary, unsatisfactory, or needs improvements should be accompanied by written comments explaining the rationale and the evidence for the rating. And you will see that on the form as well. It will state if you choose one of the items that requires, and I'm going to use the word requires, some written comments to show evidence of why you chose that, please include written comments. These will be due back to us by the next meeting. If you have them before, you're certainly welcome to get them to me. If not, I will be collecting them at the next meeting on the 25th. And then I will compile the individual ratings and the drafts of the end of cycle summative evaluation report. And then they will be presented at the April 1st meeting, which we still have to vote on as to whether April 1st will be our next meeting. But that is no, after the March 25th meeting. So after I receive these back from you, but that'll be subject for later in the. And then on the April meeting following the 25th, we will have our public open discussion on the review. I want to encourage each member to schedule a time with the superintendent, if they have not already done so, to ask questions, to get answers to their questions concerning the goals. You are to use all of the documents available to you that these goals were built on, which include the district improvement plans, the school improvement plans, the triennial reports. They are all on the website, and they are all things that you have received in the past. As with all of our educator evaluation, including our other administration and our teachers, the superintendent evaluation follows the exact same state mandated process for educator evaluation. The goals were developed based on the school and district improvement plans, evidence in their evidence-based goals. So you need to cite evidence. This is a SMART goal driven type of process, and it is what it is. And like I said, it is something that we are rolling out as mandated by the state to all of our educators, and it is important that we are able to follow this process ourselves. Are there any questions on the evaluation process?
Not at all.
Is there anything, Dr. Rizzi, that you would like to add before, or do you just assume that everyone will make the appropriate time to meet with you?
Well, I'll just say two brief things.
That would be great.
One is that we made a decision as a group, the committee and myself, over a year ago to align the superintendent's evaluation with the election cycle so that all of the people who've had a chance to work for the whole year together, and it's a kind of seasonal thing in every April, would be able to participate in the evaluation process. But that also means that we've moved away from a former process where some people who might have worked the whole year weren't there when the time came to do an evaluation, and some folks who had a very short period of time and therefore perhaps not an appropriate amount of information to weigh in would be in the process. So this way, this whole committee who's been here for a year gets to participate. The downside of that was we would either have had to have a short cycle or a very long cycle in order to line up. So that's why this is a short cycle. However, rather than invent a few things to do for a very short cycle, I actually picked some things that were timely, but also the important work of the district involves the creation of the 3-year plan, the 1-year plan, the school improvement plans. The budget process is a year-long process, and there are things that are ongoing, so some of those things are included with an emphasis on the portion of the work that was done during this very short cycle. But the piece that you've added to move right into immediately following the election would be a longer cycle, so that would be a new goal-setting process for almost an entire year, with the goal of doing a midterm formative conversation, and then another evaluation at about this time next year. So this is partly to achieve a certain cycle, and then the back portion of the packet, and Mrs. Sovany has worked on this for a long time since this has started coming up at the MASC meetings and so forth. Dr. Brown has been working with this process as an educational administrator, and certainly Mrs. Husseini and I have been talking about it a lot this year. So the final piece is not really for commenting on this particular cycle of goals, but for you to all think about us immediately going into the goal-setting process for the longer full-year evaluation cycle. So we're not only wrapping up a cycle, we're immediately at the same time going into what's going to be a reflection of an entire year's work.
And that is why that process, the last handout was included in your packet, which explains the process that we will immediately commence with going forward.
And I will, if I could just talk a tiny bit about the these few pages of evidence. There are piles and piles and piles of things I could have given you and decided that I wasn't going to go that route. We have educators who come into their evaluators with boxes and boxes and boxes, and we've had to ask them to, for their own sake, to please pick a couple of things if they have many, many, many things to show. Some of the things that are already online in our copious documents, like our budget and plans, I did not reproduce for you. But some of the things are evidence of the curriculum work that's been done, evidence of the curriculum so that you can see some of those things. So there are pieces to demonstrate the things that I reference. There are many, many other, there are certainly additional examples, but I kind of picked a representative example, and the things that you know where they are online, I didn't bother to include.
Right.
So these are your artifacts?
Yes.
Joyce?
Dr. Euro.
Well, George and I have been complaining about this. I'm putting things in your
Do not
mouth,
put
George.
words in Mr. Delinsky's mouth.
See, like, I would have wanted to see this in my packet. You know, you just pass out
I was
20,
unfortunately
30
not
page
able
document.
to, I'm sorry, I was not able to meet with Dr. Rizzi until
and
Friday
then,
of this
we
week
would have
due to
been
my
able-
work schedule.
We would have been able to, I mean, this is coming from the superintendent, not from you. Could have been included in the packages, and then we would have read, and then we would have asked some intelligent questions.
This isn't, I'm not asking you to ask questions of the superintendent at the table. This isn't the review process.
Why not?
This is, because the review process will happen on the first meeting in April after the forms are turned in. It is your job as a school committee member to complete the evaluation and to do the work, and then to come back and have the review process as a team, and not to conduct the review before everybody has had a chance to do their work.
No, I mean, you, as a group, you ask questions and
we will do
share
that.
the answers.
We will absolutely
You
do
don't
that.
I mean, you can always do individually
I'm going
too.
by
but,
the state process, Dr. Euro.
Let me just finish my train of thought. The other one is, you know, you mentioned this is analogous to teachers' process. But what we have done is, you know, we had the whole year to do this, and then just squished it into 2 weeks, and then picked the goals for the superintendent on the subjects that she has already done.
The teachers are on a different cycle because theirs is an end-of-year cycle. The ability to create to use the documents like the triennial plan, which hadn't been developed at the point last year, post-election, when our process was to have started, the documents weren't final. They didn't exist.
But this is
in order
just
for us to follow the same process, we would have needed the documents, hence the abbreviated cycle.
Yeah, so maybe, you know, we should just skip this cycle, because what we are, Joyce, are you going to let me speak? I mean, I have the floor.
Continue.
Let me ask my questions, and then you can say whatever you want, because I always listen to you guys speak, and with respect. I don't roll my eyes. I don't do snide remarks.
Beg to differ.
The question is, why? Why you know, pick the things that she has already done? We are saying this is similar to teachers, but I doubt that teachers are allowed to pick the things that they have done. Okay, go ahead.
First of all, we did vote on the abbreviated cycle. We did have the option of skipping a cycle and making this a longer process so that we'd have a complete year's evaluation. And we voted this process last year. That is why you are seeing the abbreviated cycle. It was the will of the board. I am not forcing this down anybody. The teachers do, in fact, work with their administrators on developing their goals based on the evidence, based on the test scores, based on the documents within the school improvement plan.
Yep.
That is exactly what we are doing here.
Every
They
day.
do self-assessing. That's what it's called. That's what the law calls it.
So I hope that answers your questions on the
I
process.
will read this package.
Please do read the package. I expect the forms to be returned to me by the next meeting, or they will not be included in the final summative, because I have a very short turnaround time. Any other questions on the process? Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, Carol, I'm sorry.
Sure, that's no problem. So this process that she's doing through the state is the same exact process that I am evaluated, the same process that I evaluate the teachers, and you might want to start working on this tonight, because it's going to take every minute of the time to the 25th, because she has a lot of things here that she needs to talk about. She's done her self-assessment. She has submitted her goals, which is her right to submit the goals. We're going to go into looking at the data that she has here, she's presented to us, and we write the evaluation from there. She's following the exact step of the DESE model for the state of Massachusetts. This is exactly what I'm doing when I go home tonight to one of my teachers, the exact same process.
Dr. Brown, do you
Yes,
do you get to pick the things that you already done as goals?
Yes, I do.
That's unusual.
I'll put
That
that-
I'm
doesn't
sorry.
happen in
We've
the
had this
industry.
argument at meetings before. This conversation is over. You're beating it to death. There's not going to be an answer that will satisfy you coming out of this discussion.
It's a great packet.
Thank you, Madam
so
Chair.
much.
Moving on to the non-resident employee benefit program.
Yes, this is something that comes up every year. This is an opportunity for you to review this, and there are times, the reason it comes up every year is there might be a year when, say, our situation is our schools are overcrowded or we're having very bad budget years, that this may not be a practical benefit to offer. However, fortunately, this is not one of those years. But many of the people who work in the school system, the teachers, the staff, and other employees of the town, some of the town hall folks, they prefer to bring their children with them to school in Stoughton as opposed to having them go to school in their resident communities. So this is a benefit that we have offered for a long time. I consider it a very useful recruiting and retaining tool. I've had many conversations over the years I've been here now with teachers who are so incredibly grateful, even to the point of tears, that they're able to bring their students to a school system of this quality as part of the benefit of working here. So this is something that's been extremely successful. The fee is for materials that the children might use when they're in the classroom, for which we may have some expense, so that it doesn't add to the cost of running the school district. But it has been very popular. The people who take advantage of it tend to continue to take advantage of it. And so as it's coming up again this year, I'm going to recommend that we continue to allow our school and town employees to access our schools as a benefit of employment here.
Thank you. Mr. Dolinsky?
Question, and Dr. Rizzi, on the 2013-2014 year, there was a total of 8 children that were taking advantage of this. Of these 8, just about how many of them were town employees other than teachers?
I'm going to say at this point in time, I believe this current school year, 1.
So 7 teachers were able to benefit from this.
And a town employee.
Yeah, but 17. Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Dr. Brown?
Hi, I kind of like the idea because it is a chance to increase parental involvement.
Yeah, if I could correct just that when I'm saying 6 teachers, an administrator, and a town employee.
Okay. For the record.
Yeah.
So I go back to what I was going to say. I think this is an excellent program. It allows teachers who especially have young children to have access to the school and know what's going on with their children. Another benefit of this is it allows parental involvement on a professional level to support the kids in the school, and I kind of go along with this.
Joyce?
Dr. Earl?
I wholeheartedly support this policy. I don't know if we have a policy for this, but it's really a great idea, and that lets the teachers to become vested in our school system if they are living outside Stoughton. So, but I think this is a no-brainer.
Ms. Ovene?
I just want to point out that it is a testament to our school system that when I look at the schools where employees have enrolled their children, it's at the Daw, the Gibbons, the West, the Hanson, and the South. So it's all 5 of our elementary schools. And I think it says a lot about the uniform quality of our schools that the teachers choose to enroll their children here. So I think this is a great policy.
Dr. Brown?
And it's another way that we do support our teachers.
It is, in fact, an incredible benefit.
Yes.
Does the superintendent have a recommendation?
Oh, I wholeheartedly recommend this. It's just a
I
win-win.
move the superintendent's recommendation.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. Thank you. Next on the agenda, page back, is, I believe, the school building committee discussion. School building committee discussion. This is, as you all know, the school building committee needs to be appointed by April 3rd and submitted to the MSBA for their approval. That process is well underway, and on the school building committee will sit a school committee member. I certainly have had a person express interest in that to me, and really this is just opening it for discussion so that I can make the appointment or the recommendation of that appointment to really the town manager at this point, who will be making the final.
Will we be voting or not?
It was not my intention to. I just wanted to make sure that this discussion was had open in public, and so that.
Why don't you ask for, if people are interested?
Can people please indicate if they are interested in being on the school building committee? And let me just start.
I am interested.
Before I start, understand that this is a 3+ year commitment, and probably weekly meetings. So, Dr. Earle has expressed this interest.
And I certainly have expressed interest to you a number of times. I have a lot invested in this process. I brought the high school to this point. I have taken numerous courses and seminars on the school building process, some that were recommended by the procurement officer for the town. I have spent a lot of time with our state legislators. I have organized tours for town officials to other high schools. I have been in contact with other towns about the process that they are going through, both with regard to building a new school as well as to funding it. So I have a long vested interest, and I'd very much like to be on the school building committee. Oh, and I also have my accreditation in green building. I have my LEED accreditation, which is Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, through the U.S. Green Building Council.
Dr. Brown.
With all that said, I'm not going to be a candidate, and I'm going to support Deb.
Well, it's my appointment, but thank you. We're not voting.
Thank you. Support you on it.
I will tell you, in full disclosure, that I also will not be involved because I do work for an engineering firm, and the potential for conflict is too great. And my disclosure has already been filed with the town clerk in that regard, so I will not be involved.
This would be a school committee representative. So if somebody were not on the school committee, then would be off?
You know, I do not know the answer to that question, and I can find that out.
Worthwhile to ask.
Dr. Earle, I do have one concern, and it is my appointment to make, but quite honestly, I am very concerned that a school committee member who voted against funding the feasibility at town meeting would express an interest in being on the building committee.
And spoke against the new high school.
I think you guys are misquoting. If you remember, or we can review the tapes at the next meeting, I was objecting to the process as usual. I was saying, we need to bring people along because this is going to be a $2 million a year payment, even with the prop money from the MSBA. And I also said this was premature because we were trying to get the with the first SOI in, and it had the first SOI had problems. The school committee was not allowed to participate.
First SOI did not have problems. I am sorry.
Yes, they did. Look at my webpage and then compare it to the last SOI.
I'm sorry, no.
You will see it's how obviously deficient it was.
90+% of first-year SOIs are not funded because the senior site study is not completed in time for the process to happen. That is a fact.
To refresh your memory, go look at my website.
I do not look at your website. I'm sorry. Do not use this platform to publish, to talk about a private website. I am sorry, you are out of order.
Thank you. Madam Chairman, I'd like to go on record as I'm not willing to serve on that committee. So you just.
And I can tell you, I think, given where I am today, Ms. Sauvanet's tremendous investment in this process to date, and has really worked very hard at shepherding us to this point. it is, in fact, my decision to appoint her to the building committee. But again, I wanted this process to be public and open. So thank you.
Now, with your potential conflict, would you be, you feel comfortable about
absolutely. First of all, at this point, there is no conflict because there is. I said there's a potential conflict when the point that comes that they hire an engineering firm. We are not at that point. I am cleared with the town clerk. I have signed the papers that are where the school committee chair's signatures are required. But when it comes to the point that my company either applies for the process, proposes on the project, or is chosen, that is the only time that there is a conflict.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Delansky.
Point of information, Madam Chairman, please. In our package, we had the residency truancy report.
Can we do it under other matters?
If you so desire, Madam Chairman.
I just would like to get through this agenda.
No problem. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
I have something else.
Okay. Under old business, I've condensed the reports for the various separate committees into two different groups. The ad hoc committees, which were the ones that had existed before, such as the Facilities, Feasibility, and Wellness Committee, and the standing subcommittees. So we are starting with the ad hoc committees, of which the feasibility committee no longer exists, so there's no longer a report to be had.
Yes.
And I do, in fact, have brief updates from both the Wellness and the Facility Master Plan Committee. And the Facility Master Plan being only that there's an upcoming meeting scheduled for the 25th or 26th of this month, sometime in that date.
Well, if you keep talking,
It's a Wednesday. The Wellness Committee met, and they have only one more meeting this year, and I'm very pleased to announce that even though the meetings have been brief and a small group of people involved, we have a number of initiatives that have been moving forward and that I would love to report on. One is that the BOKS program, BOKS, which is the Reebok-sponsored before-school physical education, physical activity program, which ran last year at the South School, it's in its second session again this year at the South School, and the Gibbons School has just begun the program. They are 25 or so students per session. They meet 2 days a week in the morning, about 40 minutes before school. It is run with parent volunteers and physical education teachers. It has been fully enrolled at the South School since it started, and it is fully enrolled at the Gibbons in current, and we are very, very pleased with that. Pat Small, Mrs. Small, Director of Nursing, gave an update on what our big initiative is, which is creating a wellness fair for employees for next year, which I believe they are looking to run on an early release day early in the year for the 2014-2015 calendar year. It will have run in conjunction with a number of other agencies in town, including the Stoughton VNA, and they will be running their flu clinic at this time for employees. We're also looking at doing a table on emergency planning, and that there are several other participants that have been discussed, including a number of different health screening services, and the Y will be helping out with some other fitness type activities. We're looking at perhaps diabetes screening, blood pressure checks, the Lions Club and their iVan, and then also local businesses getting involved as well. So that is kind of the big initiative. We had focused initially year one on the kind of mandated changes in the nutrition program, and we are turning our focus now to the employee wellness. And then also Lauren, whose last name from the Y escapes me.
Me too.
It has been just incredibly wonderful, and she had brought to our attention, or brought to Ms. Small's attention, a program called KEEP, K-E-E-P, for which the acronym is not explained, but it is a program that had in the past been by referral from pediatricians, and it is really to catch a very specific group of kids that meet the criteria to get them in the program, and they work at the Y for 8 weeks. They're at week 8, they work for 12 weeks, and in conjunction with this, it works with both the children and the parents and the family, and the Y offers them a full 3-month family membership in conjunction with the program. And because she felt that there was sufficient room in the program for more kids, she asked the school nurses, please, if they could find children that met the criteria, and I believe that there were five were recommended for and ended up joining, and she's looking for additional referrals for this coming session. And it's really just incredible the way the community has reached out and worked in conjunction with Mrs. Small to make these things happen. So very, very pleased to report that. On the standing subcommittees, has there been any motion, movement
I did some legwork
on?
Remember we were talking about town charter and.
Oh, yes.
So I have, first of all, I sent an email to MASC to find out if there are any laws about December 31st.
Okay.
And they said, no, there isn't.
Okay.
And then I also talked to the town manager. He said that he knows that there isn't anything, but that is a charter change. And the selectmen are, they hired a lawyer that are preparing the charter change proposals, and so to maybe Dr. Rizzi could bring it up with the town manager, and we can see what is or also discuss it with the maybe FinCom to see what would be the reasonable date for them to do their jobs. On the other part, remember there was also the town code part.
Right.
I talked to town manager. Felt that that the town meeting vote is required for changes to that part, and he said selectmen are planning a fall town meeting, and if we get our act together, then we could submit those changes to the fall town meeting. And I also talked to the moderator, and we looked at. I showed them the problem areas. He thought that some of those are should be under the ownership of the school committee. The town meeting vote would not be required to change those.
To change town code?
Yeah, he looked at it. It says these are, because in the town code it says these are the policies, or I forgot the terminology of the school committee. So it's just. That part is just reporting
it's
school
an insertion
committee.
of school committee policies.
Yeah, so we need to, maybe next meeting or so, we can invite him over and resolve those issues and just iron out. I told him that I felt, if we come up with a policy manual, we actually have a policy manual. He thought it would be useful for all the policies and the codes be in one place. So I said, why don't we, because we maintain our own policies, so why don't we have the town code refer to school committees on things that pertain to school department? And then he pointed out within that school committee section, I don't know, section 311 it was, there are also some requirements of the charter, so the whole thing needs to be reevaluated. Maybe it may be worthwhile to invite him over.
Do they
Mr. Dolinsky.
Do they interlock at all, or do they refer to the charter in one and then the code and then go back to the charter? Are they interlocking, or?
Yeah. So the date, like the December 31st date, is on the charter portion up front.
Right.
And then there is a section 311 that talks about the school department. And the beginning of that has some of the charter requirements, specified in there. And the other part, I don't know, duplicating those town charter things in section 311 would be helpful. Is it helpful or more confusing? Usually we avoid those duplications because there is more chances of making a mistake. So maybe we can start, because we also didn't decide. Whether we should be doing this within the subcommittee or the main committee. So, we should, maybe we set up, we talked about setting a task group or a ad hoc committee to work on this.
Well, I think you've given us some interesting things to think about in terms of some of these just being removed from the process in terms of the policy and referring to our policy manual.
So maybe, we can set up a task group of 2, just go over that section 311 and identify what is charter and what is school committee policy.
Is it? Can you go back to him and maybe get us copies of it and maybe send
It's on the internet.
Yeah.
It's on the town webpage.
The town webpage.
He actually thinks that he has the official copy and the one on the internet is not really. in sync with his, but he said we can work
Is
on
updated,
yeah.
Is anybody interested in working on this town code /
Or,
charter?
you know, the superintendent and assistant superintendent may choose to do so.
Do you have any suggestions? I mean,
I'm a little bit familiar with the charter change policy. I think it's really clear. I think people who have issues to bring forward as charter changes, there's already a standing town committee on government and rules changes, and they have a calendar and so on. And if it's the committee's desire to move forward with some kind of a charter change, there's a process for the committee to do it. I think that there's some risk in a couple of people who just taking on something like this. There are a lot of implications and so on. And the school committee itself is a very separate body with a very separate charge from the Board of Selectmen or the FinCom or any of the other bodies in town. And as we've looked at over the years, very different in terms of the budgetary process and the responsibilities the school committee has. So it's not an uncomplicated issue and not one that we feel there's any urgency for us to take on at the moment in our administrative capacity. We would support you in anything that you wanted to do as an entire committee in that regard, as opposed to as individuals.
Actually, we are not talking about the charter change part. I think the charter change part, it would be best if the superintendent, work with the town manager and the lawyer to get that change, up.
but you're talking specifically
I'm
the
talking about
December
the code.
31st change.
I'm talking
the charter.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah.
only one change that I think everybody, the town, us, and everybody in town would benefit from. The other part is at the end of the town code book, there is a part that says it's not the charter, but it says town code. So it just seems like a collection of school committee policies. Like it says, school committee hires all the teachers, and I brought in examples at the last meeting. So
Right, no, and it was a great example, and it's like you said, if we could just have it so that it refers to the school committee policy.
I think that would be the
That
best.
would be ideal. And I don't know if that takes a committee to have that discussion. I do want to turn it back to you in terms of the December 31st, because if it is, it's a conversation we've had in the past, and I don't know how compelling it is. I do believe the selectmen are also
right now they are
with their deadline, just because, not because their deadline.
Actually, right now, right now is an opportune moment because they hired a lawyer to make some substantial charter changes, and that will be for the next.
Well, I think I would like to have
meeting.
a talk with the. I'll have a talk with the chair of the Board of Selectmen and find out what their process is.
Good idea.
Did we actually want to change?
And that's the
December
question: did we want
31st?
to change it December 1st?
Yeah, I'm going to. Yeah.
If the rumor is that in fact the selectmen are looking to change it only because it doesn't line up with the state budgeting process, that it wouldn't make sense for us to hold.
Well, have a chat with him
Yeah,
and
I
then
think
find
it's best
out.
to have that. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're actually looking at some structural and other substantive changes too.
Sure. I will. I'll get an update on that for you. Thank you. Other standing subcommittees, if you have not scheduled meetings, please try to have a meeting in place before town meeting starts. That's all I ask.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Dolinsky, are you raising your hand? or are you
I'm waiting
He's
for.
dying to talk
He's
about
dying to
that.
talk. I know.
No,
It's coming.
I know.
It's
So is
cor-
Christmas.
This is coming faster. Correspondence.
Nothing, Madam Chairman.
See, I told you it was coming faster. April meeting schedule. This is on here because there is an election on April 8th, and we do not traditionally have school committee meetings on election nights. It is also, let me get my calendar up so I can speak to this intelligently. School vacation week falls
21st.
the 21st. Okay, so I just want to take a look at the month as a whole. And the 22nd would be our normal school committee meeting night, 2nd and 4th, correct? Mm-hmm. But we don't have it then. So to look at school committee meetings for the month of April and how we want to arrange them. I'm looking for suggestions. Since we cannot meet on the 22nd,
Why can't we meet on? It's the
it's school vacation week.
school vacation week.
And unless you're going to come to Minnesota and help me put my mother's house on the market, I will not be here.
I can sell it on the internet.
Yeah.
So are you thinking like April 1st?
I was thinking the 1st and the 15th, perhaps?
Yeah.
Actually, I'll have to be out of town.
For which one?
I'm leaving on the 31st and coming back on the 2nd.
You need to do the first if you're going to do the evaluation.
We need to do exactly. We need to do the evaluation before the
We
election.
can do the 3rd.
I had to stay on Tuesdays.
The 3rd, I have the Pilgrim Collaborative meeting, which I chair.
We had talked about this date of the 1st for the last 2 school committee meetings. We just did
But
not
that's-
vote
I
formally
locked it
to
in.
accept it. Okay.
That's something I had arranged for like 6 months ago. So that's not something I could change.
We'll have a quorum.
You bet. I bet you do.
I don't think we've missed one quorum yet.
What are we? I'm looking for something that can be put as a motion so that I can vote on
Why
it.
don't
I
we
not
do
make
it like
motions.
the 20, something that, this is going to be an important meeting, it sounds like. Why don't we do it? I mean, I don't miss any meetings, and I'm just going on a trip for 3 days. And I'm going to be in Louisiana, so it's not something that I could come. Just pick another day.
Well, I don't have the FinCom calendar in front of me, which is also a determining factor in this time of year.
Yeah, they do meet Wednesdays and Thursdays. They leave Tuesdays open because of you and the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, can we keep it on a Tuesday?
Well,
since I have things
you
scheduled
can do it on the
Tuesday?
7th.
We have mediation on this.
We have, we are blocked for reserved for mediation with the teachers union.
And we have an election on the 8th. We have mediation on the 9th also. We got
Correct.
scheduled.
So what will be the purpose of the of that meeting?
It will be to do the superintendent evaluation. It'll be
There
to
you go.
present. I understand that, but we have the 2nd, 7th, 9th reserved at this point, including the 8th, even though it's election night for mediation.
Well, let's do
dates.
Saturday.
I can't come on a Saturday. I'm out of town.
Any Saturday or
Every
just that
Saturday.
Saturday?
Every Saturday.
What about Monday the 31st?
Oh, no, we have we have a debate that night, George.
You gotta be kidding me.
Nope.
Is that the one that's on
6 to 7:30.
Straighten out our calendars.
God. That's the one at SMAC again, right?
Yes.
Looking for a motion.
Take a motion for April 1st.
I second it.
I don't know.
Discussion?
Well, I strongly object because this is
no,
probably the most important meeting, and I'm the only one, well, I shouldn't say I'm the only one. We haven't seen your reviews, but I have differing opinions from you on the superintendent's performance. So you're effectively taking me out of the picture.
What about Thursday the 3rd then?
I'm available.
Can we go Thursday the 3rd?
I have to look
Nope.
at my calendar, George.
Excuse me?
I have to look at my calendar.
I have the Pilgrim Collaborative
Pilgrim
meeting,
Collaborative.
which requires a quorum, and I'm the chair.
But December 32nd?
Okay. You know, other than saying again that we had this April 1st discussion for the last month.
And I slated it in my calendar.
Joyce, this is a symposium, and I have paper, I have chairing a session, and I'm getting an award. So
But
it doesn't matter you had discussion.
Congratulations.
But
I never heard an objection to it the last 2 meetings. That is what is confusing me.
Well, I mean, if you don't believe me, go look at
I
the
don't say I
symposium
don't believe you. I'm
webpage.
just not.
It's,
Except you didn't bring it
it's
up.
really unfair. I mean, if I brought it up, what difference would it have made? You guys were going to pick it up anyways.
Well, I will tell you that there is, the selectmen have passed a policy on remote participation that we haven't looked at. I do not know where that falls with this.
Oh, that would be all right.
Why?
When are you back?
I'm going on Monday, coming back on Wednesday. And you guys want
What
to
time
do the
Wednesday?
meeting
What time
Can
Wednesday?
you just submit it?
coming Wednesday night?
We don't know if, isn't FinCom meeting that night?
We might have.
Madam Chair, could you just submit it?
Well, absolutely. The review will have been submitted anyway. Is there any possibility for remote participation in the evening?
You're asking me?
Yes.
Yeah.
You'd be the one who would be remote.
Well, we can. I mean, we can try that if that's.
Like I said, it is something, and I'd have to look at what the logistics are and what the rules are on that, but the selectmen did in fact approve that policy this year. It applies to all committees in the town, ourselves
When
included.
did they? I don't think they approved it yet.
I'm pretty sure they did. and I
Yeah,
will
they
check
did
that.
actually, yeah.
They've approved it, they haven't used it yet.
What was that?
A policy on remote participation.
Oh.
Are you sure they haven't used it yet?
If you were going to have a
thought
policy,
they
you'd have to draft a policy and have a reading and create a policy.
Actually, I was curious to see how it applies, though, because this is one where the town actually has control over the concept of remote participation for
That's right.
all committees, all town committees.
Can you call Glenn Kuchar from MASC?
I absolutely can do that. It actually was a topic recently on the MASC board.
I know it was, yeah, and I think people were favorably inclined to
Yeah.
it.
So with that, I mean, we could hold the vote off until the next meeting, but I'm not sure what that's going to buy us except for tying up more evenings.
Yeah, Thursday was an option.
Thursday,
Dr.
the
Brown is going.
superintendent is at a Pilgrim
she's
Collaborative where
available.
she's the chair.
Where?
Of which we are a member.
Pilgrim Collaborative.
Madam Chair, is it just that we're submitting our information for the,
Submitting your information on the next meeting in March, and the
Which
discussion
is-
will happen.
on the 1st?
That's when people get a chance to weigh in, so there's not, it's, though there isn't an opportunity to do that.
And you certainly are welcome to present written statements. That's,
He writes all the time, so.
please keep our comments.
I'll write you up, Deborah.
Do I have a motion?
I have a motion to move that we have the meeting on April 1st.
And on April, we're doing both meetings in April. We have a motion. Oh, table, okay,
Yeah.
and we have a second. That's right, I was in discussion. Thank you. Motion, vote on the motion. Motion, I can't even talk anymore. All in favor of the motion for the 1st and the 15th?
Aye.
Oh,
What are you still?
no, don't worry about Peter Brown is doing, I believe, a marathon walk to help raise funds for the prosthesis for his two nephews who lost their legs on the marathon bombing a year ago. I don't know if you saw the Kelly and
I heard about it. I didn't see
show.
it.
It was a tremendous piece on his sister, the mother of the two boys, and supposedly be with him on that day.
On the 15th?
On the 15th. I'm not sure what time. It's a 26-mile walk.
They're both Tuesdays.
I've done it in 8 hours. You can do it too.
I'm driving the van. But let's go. I'll go with the 15th and see
Okay.
if I can make it. If
Okay.
I'm not here, I'm not here. That's all.
Okay,
The motion on the floor is only for April 1st.
okay.
It doesn't
So let's vote on April 1st. Since that's the first one, we'll make a second motion. All in favor of meeting on April 1st?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed?
Aye.
Okay. We will pursue the concept of the remote participation. Looking for a motion for a second meeting in April. Which at this point would either have to be the 15th,
15th
or
or
the
the 29th
29th.
are the two options.
I say 29th.
Is that a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of meeting on the 29th?
That makes sense, because then it's 2 weeks till the next meeting.
That's
as
true.
opposed to 4.
That's true. So I have all,
So is this April 1st and April 29th?
correct. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And there was an aye down there. And Dr. Brown's looking.
I don't have a problem with that. I
It's a
can go
Tuesday,
along with
okay.
that.
So it's going to be separated by, all right.
Yeah. Well, school vacation.
There's a vacation week, so
not
that's
a
kind of a
Tuesday, I'm good with
non-week.
that.
Okay, all
And,
right.
and your vote, 7A was?
Yes.
Okay, so that's unanimous. First and the 29th. Thank you. Acceptance of minutes for the regular meeting of January 14th.
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
I have, yes.
Okay.
So there was just one little change. Let me just, it was actually just a typo. but it was, let me just.
Well,
find
SAT
it.
versus STA?
Yes, so I'm just
good catch.
asking on the second page.
They are doing
if,
training for
yeah, it's
STA.
just such an easy, such an easy
Take
thing.
them both a watch.
I know. Such an easy thing. So that's the only thing before you submit them. If you just change that would be great. Thank you.
Mary, I was particularly impressed with the R with the circle around.
Registered trademark. All right, so I have a motion with...
It was made.
As amended, or
Can we-
As amended.
Thank you. In a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Other matters. Mr. Dolinsky, I know you're dying.
Who's dying?
No, I'm not.
Well, he lost
You
his
know,
paper
at my age, it could be happening. You never know.
Dying to jump in here.
Yeah, no, on the first thing I just wanted to comment on was the residency truancy report. I think last year we had asked to have it also, I know there's a quarterly report.
Oh, correct.
And we also asked to have it year-to-date included on here, which this does not. So if you could just remind our officer, and it's also quite interesting that for this quarter, November through January, that we had nine students remove themselves from our school system if they were found out that, and I understand there may possibly be more, and we'll probably get that on the next report, but I think year-to-date would be helpful on this. And you could put it all on the same page as two columns in the front, make it a lot easier.
What I was
Okay,
wondering,
and then-
oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Jeff.
okay, no.
On that subject, what I was wondering is, what are the cafeteria checks?
Yes. What is a cafeteria check?
To see if they are eating?
No, I think it's more of a, if they're, I thought it was for the...
Or just go into the
to make
cafeteria?
sure, no, to make sure that they're qualified for the...
Free and reduced?
The free and reduced lunch, I believe. I'm not...
Well, that's a federal program. We wouldn't be monitoring.
We do a percentage of all the kids every year.
Oh, okay.
Yes, to see if they're eligible.
Yep. So there's an automatic audit that we do every year based on a given percentage of kids that file for,
Okay.
families that file for free and reduced lunch.
Okay. Explain that.
Yeah?
Okay.
That's good.
Other
And-
matters.
Yes, Madam Chairman, I am very, very pleased to bring to the committee and the superintendent and the assistant superintendent the following information. We had, I believe, 12 student athletes from Stoughton that were selected to be Pop Warner football and cheerleading All-American Scholar athletes. There are, Pop Warner, as you may know, is the only national organization that requires an academic fitness qualification. They have to have a report card presented. They have to be doing well in school to be able to participate. Approximately 2% of the thousands of kids in the country, I've been told, qualify for this honor. And if I may, I'd just like to bring out or announce the names so people watching, and it goes in the record, that the following was selected as All-American Scholar athletes: Brian Fallon, Justin Lee, Connor Johnson, Mark Anastasi, Colin Sander, Shannon Petrie, Amaya Adams, Andrew Conte Moriarty, Kevin Dixon, Tommy Fisher, Nathaniel Wilson, and Tyler Hedl-Ruskowski. And one of the things that's very important to understand with this, that the kids that qualify for this, and I'm really impressed, have to maintain about a 96% average in school, which these kids did, and they also have to participate in other activities such as food bank, other organizations helping the elderly, or whatever, community service. It goes without saying that these kids make us look very good.
Yeah.
Exception.
And I wanted this to go on the record.
Here, here.
Thank you. Other matters. Oh, could you please give a copy of that to Mrs. Shea when you're done?
Oh, sure.
So she has the names.
Yes.
Any other matters?
I don't have any.
You vote, Dr. Earl?
I have two, one question and one informational item. The question is, what are we doing about the open meeting law violation complaint that we received? We need to discuss it maybe at the next meeting and address it.
I believe you've referred it to the attorney. We've referred it.
Who decided that?
I did. Well, the one that was against the school committee, which was odd that it was against the entire committee, but
Except for one.
yeah. So yes,
So there was more than one, or just
there
one?
were two.
Oh, there were two?
Yep. Essentially same
The
language.
same thing?
Yep.
Okay. But instead of sending it to the lawyer, there may be some valid points in there. It is best to
That is,
discuss it at the committee and
We'll discuss it.
resolve
We will discuss. I felt that there was enough. I gave the chronology of events as I pulled from the calendar, and I really prefer to run it past school attorney. So that is where it stands. Is there any
Okay.
other matters?
Yeah, I went to this workshop organized by DESI. Remember we were talking about it at the last meeting. It's about PAR Park
exam,
and the Common Core in Massachusetts. It was very informative, so I brought the handouts and I asked for
Oh, good.
electronic copy. So I'll wait another day. If we don't get the electronic copy, then I'll
Okay.
give mine to Mary to be scanned. But more interesting was the questions that people asked. Going to these things are always best because you hear other people's concerns. So one concern was, the having the technology to do, because it will be both electronically and by pencil. Some districts felt that they didn't have enough computers, so I don't think we have that problem. The other concern was the questions. There are some personal questions. So, people were talking about having questions about their families, people's families, called federal government, Big Brother collecting data. And DESI, flat out denied that there is such a thing. They said there may be some questions about that particular student's interest about the test, but they are not collecting any data. And then the last one was, what was the last one? I just skipped my mind. All right, never mind. So
Well, we're all eager to see the test. I think that you hear a lot of.
oh yeah, okay. I'm sorry.
information, yeah.
I remember the last one is. So this is going to be the trial, and all the students are going to be required to take this test, but it won't count.
Right.
So DESI was saying that they are not going to let any student opt out. I don't know how they would enforce that, but people were concerned with that approach.
We do know that there are schools, and just to add to that conversation, following the topic on the MASC board, there are schools that have taken a huge hit in terms of the number of grades and the number of units of the tests that they are being asked to trial. We are not in that position. But we're looking at cities like Worcester who are taking just a huge hit across the system and expecting kids to take several units of PARC in addition to MCAS, and parents, including some of the school committee members, were talking about keeping their kids home that day, which I thought was a really interesting conversation.
But then there'll be a makeup.
Yeah, well, they had both days. I thought it was an interesting conversation, which we fortunately don't have to really delve into at this point, and I guess be subject to the same things that somebody else is going to test for us. But I think the comment had been made before that again, for these poorer districts or these larger districts, the investment in technology in order to support the test, the infrastructure just doesn't exist. And we are quite fortunate that if we were to have to deal with it today, we would probably be well situated to do so. But thank you for attending that. I know that was the one in Peabody, or?
Well, that was in Taunton.
Okay.
It was hard to find.
Yeah.
They got lost on the way.
I have just two brief other matters. One is that tomorrow night is the evening of jazz, and I believe at 7:30. We certainly encourage anybody to come. But along the lines of some other wonderful news, as Mr. Dolinsky had, and I really apologize to the young man whose name escapes me, who went to the state wrestling tournament, came in 7th in the state in his division.
Girolamo.
Very good.
Thank you. Could you say that again?
Girolamo, I believe his name is.
Yeah.
You sure it's not Geronimo?
No.
No.
And also to congratulate the hockey team on their being chosen or named the James F. Malloy I can't say it again, Sportsmanship Award recipient several years running. And they will be presented with that award at TD Garden on March 16th.
Yes, there is one other thing you just reminded me of. The same week, Danny Mark, who's the longtime coach of the boys varsity hockey team, it's been announced that he is being inducted into the MIAA Hockey Coach Hall of Fame, which is a, big deal ceremony that will be taking place, I believe, on May 4th.
Very, very nice.
Yeah.
Yes. Any other?
I just had a question. I have on my calendar a possible FinCom review of articles tomorrow night, but is
no? I'll give you the schedule coming up.
Okay, thank you. What time is the jazz concert?
I believe 7:30.
Okay, thank you.
They usually are.
Beautiful program.
Beautiful program.
Really lovely music.
The financial warrants will be available in the school committee room. I do not believe are going back into executive session for anything tonight.
I think Mr. Dolinsky had suggested that you do.
Oh, I thought
we held it open for we held open the potential to go back if needed.
Oh, I thought we were going to discuss the grievance update. I may have been wrong. No, it's not on here, so
okay.
We'll hold off on that because.
Joyce, you said that you were going to tell us the FinCom dates?
I'm going to tell you the meeting dates coming up. So here's what I have. Here's what I have confirmed. And they, trust me, I'm not getting information confirmed very well. First of all, we have a meeting on Thursday the 13th with the budget subcommittee, FinCom subcommittee and that's at 6:30 in the school committee room.
March 13th?
I'm asking, yes.
7:30?
6:30.
Oh, 6:30?
What's that, Thursday?
Yes, Thursday, and that was their choice.
Right, 2 days from now.
2 days from now. Our next regular meeting is March 25th. I have the petitioned articles scheduled. I've been informed that they are on March 19th. I do not have a time for that. I have not seen a schedule for that. I am just told that the articles petitioned.
What time is
that's
that?
the hearing?
Okay.
That is the FinCom's the process they're going through right now on the articles. And other matters, the spelling bee for the O'Donnell Middle School is taking place March 13th at 9 a.m.
That's Thursday.
That is Thursday.
Now, the other thing we need to consider is the public hearing for our budget. It's a legal requirement.
Correct. Oh, good point.
And we need a 10-day advance notice in the press. Shall we pick a date, or is it going to be on the
April 29th?
Actually, we can do it. No, we can do it in the next meeting. So if we get the advertisement out.
No. Well, the question is, when do we want to do the?
We normally do it in March.
Yeah, and I will be away on the 29th. I
Okay.
just saw.
It could certainly be arranged.
Okay.
No matter which meeting it is, we've got time to get the advertisements out.
Okay.
Unless, if we want to do it next meeting, then the advertisement has to
go out pretty soon.
Because it's a 10-day requirement.
By the 15th.
Yeah.
Like I said, we have the April 1st and we have the April 29th meeting, each of which meetings some of our members will be away.
It often has been scheduled after the Finance Committee votes on the budget, because after the Finance Committee votes on the budget, if they do not approve the budget, or if they add money to the budget, then it's up to the school committee to make whatever adjustments, if any, that you wish to make before going to town meeting.
So I do not have the date for the school committee or for the finance committee voting on the budget.
Gesundheit.
March 26th.
That was a funny one.
That's on TV.
So then maybe the 29th would be if they're going to vote on the 26th.
So
you won't have time to consider.
Revisit the 29th. Sorry. I just received notice that I'm going to be. I know.
Unfortunately, there's bound to be conflicts this time of year all around.
Okay. And Mr. Dolinsky, April 15th is definitely out for you?
You could do it on the
It's
1st.
not definitely, I gotta confirm it, I believe it is.
Okay. If we could just maybe, because I'm definitely away on the 29th. I'm sorry, I just received a reminder.
I'll check with Arlen
Okay,
about the 15th.
all right. Well, we'll just talk about this the next meeting if that's okay.
And if I miss it, I mean, you know, here again, it's just,
No,
you know.
it's all right.
Unfortunately, we can't talk
I
about-
really apologize.
Sorry.
Okay, sorry.
I don't want to say there's a possibility of having a third meeting in April, but
No, it's okay. I'll
This
just
is
talk
not,
to Mr.
this is not a year where it appears you're going to have to be discussing precipitous cuts. So I don't think you'd need another meeting for it.
Okay, thank you.
So right now we are leaning towards the April 29th meeting because we do not believe FinCom will have voted in time for our April 25th meeting is,
Mary, didn't we do it on March
or March 25th, I'm sorry, meeting.
last year? I think I seem to remember that we always do it in March.
April, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, would you check? I would much rather have it at the next meetings, you know, get people's input, for also the FinCom to consider. I don't think
But we
we
don't-
waited for the FinCom vote in the past.
I thought it was
No,
in
I-
April last year, actually, too.
Mary will
We don't
check.
get,
It's
yeah.
right before town meeting, typically.
Yes, because at this point you have voted a budget,
Right.
but you
Then
don't
it
know
took
yet
FinCom
if that's
subcommittee.
the budget going to town meeting. I mean, it'll be the budget you're sending to town meeting. You don't know if it's going to go with the Finance Committee recommendation
Yeah.
or with alterations proposed by
right.
the Finance Committee. And if
Right.
there are, do you wish to make alterations in your proposed budget based on those?
I think that's my bigger concern, is that it'd be difficult to take input from the public to fit into a budget if FinCom has not indicated to us what parameters we're going to be operating under. But
You could do it on either the 1st or the 29th if they vote
Yeah.
on the 26th of March.
I don't hear a motion on anything, so
Should we move into executive
we can.
session?
We are actually not, I believe, moving into
Oh,
executive
we
session.
don't have anything more to talk, we're all done?
Unless one of you wish to have
Oh,
further
okay.
discussion on the matters that were
That were
discussed
on the
earlier.
original agenda.
Do anything further?
I think
let's go
we're
home.
done.
Wow, so next regular, well, we'll see you all on Thursday, hopefully, but the next regular meeting will
We
be
need
on
a
March
quorum
25th.
for Thursday?
No, it is not a voting meeting. It's an informational meeting for FinCom to ask their questions of us.
Did they submit written questions already?
Did not submit written questions.
Could we get a copy of the written questions that were submitted ahead of time, if they do?
We don't expect them to
today's
submit
Tuesday.
anything before Thursday, if that's what you're asking.
I'm sorry?
We don't expect them to submit questions before Thursday.
Normally, they used to send questions ahead of time.
They usually do
now.
it, you know, the subcommittee meeting last year was over 2 or 3 nights, and they submitted the questions after the first night, after they had had their chance to
Okay.
interview us.
They have done it in different ways.
Yeah.
They have sent us questions before the meeting. They've sent us questions before the meeting and before the second meeting. The amounts of questions have varied from year to year. We've not gotten a request for written questions, and generally they're handled by the staff. That's how the questions get answered. And they haven't requested any this year.
Just so that we are prepared, I'm asking the superintendent to give us
If they
the
submit questions, we will,
Yes.
I will
Thank you
ask
so
to
much.
have that done. Hearing nothing else in our agenda being
Motion to adjourn.
completed.
Second.
No.
No,
You can go.
meeting adjourned.